Hello everyone, Seth the Programmer here. Before we start, I just want to say I'm not saying that I think people are saying Piccolo is weak or lack respect for him. In fact, I believe a lot of people really like Piccolo and respect him, especially for someone who isn't a Saiyan character. However, I think people still underestimate him throughout numerous points in history regardless, so let's explain why he's much stronger than people give him credit. A lot of stuff I'm going to be bringing up here is highly controversial and highly argued about, so keep that in mind when you're going to the comments section. We'll be going over many different sagas, by the way, not just one point of the series, and this includes Dragon Ball Super. We're not going to be touching up on his first appearances in Dragon Ball, or anything up until really the end of the Frieza saga, because it's all pretty self-explanatory. Nobody downplays him ever there. It's all explained. It's all clear set how powerful he is. It's mainly in the start of the Android saga that people begin to underestimate him. After fusing with Nail, Piccolo surpassed his second form Frieza, but was weaker than third form Frieza. This much is pretty clear, but what about after that? Many people like to assume his power at this point, and many are reluctant to say he's stronger than Frieza when Piccolo first confronts 17 and 18 after 18 defeats Vegeta. But what if I told you that this Piccolo was in fact still far stronger than even Super Saiyan Trunks from the future when he met Goku? That's right, Piccolo even before fusing with Kami was already stronger than some of the Super Saiyans. This is because Piccolo overheard Trunks talk to Goku and felt Trunks' power firsthand, as well as Goku's when they were turned into Super Saiyans. He also overheard and was told personally that the androids could absolutely dominate Super Saiyans. He even stated before his training that if you don't stand a chance against the androids, to not even bother coming to fight them. Then, even after seeing Android 19 take numerous hits from a sick Super Saiyan Goku, Tien still noted, by the way, that this sick Goku was still insanely powerful, and none of them even noted he was weaker than before when he fought Trunks, except for Piccolo and Gohan, who knew his full powers to their extent. And despite this android taking hits from someone who is beyond Frieza level, Piccolo took off his weights with a smile on his face and completely demolished Dr. Zero, who was even stronger or more equal to Android 19. Piccolo even stated he had complete confidence in his abilities to wipe out the androids, despite Super Saiyan Trunks stating that he was their inferior. This is before Piccolo learned that they were different androids than Trunks' timeline too, by the way. So as you can see, even in the Android arc, many people desperately underestimate Piccolo, even stating he'd stand no chance against Frieza after the 3 years of training. I'd even go as far as to say that Goku more than likely trained Piccolo up by fighting him as a Super Saiyan later in their training, as Piccolo knew exactly how strong Goku's full power as a Super Saiyan actually was. Despite the fact of all of this, people still believe he's weaker than Frieza, even though he trained for 3 years straight to combat fighters greater than Super Saiyans, and even stating he has complete confidence in beating them. It's like they don't trust in Piccolo's ability to train for adversaries, even though in the Saiyan saga, when he heard a threat of more powerful Saiyans coming to Earth, he trained and became more than twice as powerful as the last Saiyan he fought, in less time than he believed he had to train as well. Piccolo is a brilliant fighter, and knows exactly how to prepare for a difficult fight. These people's claims of him being inferior to Frieza at this time are unbacked and fallacious. Now let's move on to the Buu Saga, as it's pretty clear how powerful Piccolo is during the Cell games, after his fusion with Kami, etc. In the Buu Saga, the downplay of Piccolo becomes even more absurd. It's just complete bullshit. Like, I can't believe people actually think this stuff. Some people think that even after 7 years of intense training from the Cell games, that Piccolo can't even take on a Cell Jr. in the Buu Saga. Absolute bullshit. Many people downplay Buu Saga Piccolo because he never actually does anything combat related in the saga. But let's bring up some things that prove he's much more powerful than a Cell Jr. And before you say it, yes, Piccolo trained all 7 years after the Cell games up until the Buu Saga. Even Akira Toriyama himself stated that Goku, Vegeta, and Piccolo, all they do with their free time is train. So he would have gotten much stronger than he was in the Cell games after training for 7 years straight. Like, let's get real. To start, people downplay Buu Saga Piccolo for these few reasons. 1, he was surprised by Goten and Trunks' full power, meaning they rival him in some way. 2, Supreme Kai made Piccolo back down in the tournament. The Supreme Kai is weak compared to the Saiyans, so that makes Piccolo weak as well. 3, Dabura and Babidi declared that Gohan, Vegeta, and Goku were the 3 strongest warriors by Supreme Kai, meaning their base form surpassed even Piccolo fused with Kami. So let's tackle this first argument. Goten and Trunks impressing Piccolo. Why is this even an argument people used to say he's weak? Let's go over a few things. Even Vegeta was seriously impressed by Trunks. And in fact, so was Goku, despite not showing it as physically as Piccolo did. Goku literally gambled the sake of the entire fate of Earth on the kids because of the potential and power that he was showed on Kami's lookout. Honestly, Piccolo was just surprised like Vegeta was. There's nothing else to it. To top it off, Goten and Trunks were shown to be at best around Android 18 level. And if you remember anything, even before Piccolo went into the hyperbolic time chamber for the Cell games and trained for 7 years, he was able to swap hands with Android 17, who was confirmed much stronger than Android 18, as confirmed by the guides and 16 and 17s themselves. Supreme Kai making Piccolo back down in the tournament. There's a few things I would like to note. Piccolo couldn't even tell who the Supreme Kai was when he first met him. In fact, he simply thought he was the Grand Kai, not even the Supreme Kai. He stepped down from the tournament due to his opponent's rank and having respect for him, and not due to his power, because he probably couldn't even sense his full power, because the Supreme Kai is a god. Although I will agree Piccolo is weaker than the Supreme Kai, as it's confirmed by the Daizenshu entry on Supreme Kai that Piccolo is weaker. The Supreme Kai is also far stronger than people think in general. To go into detail about why the Supreme Kai is stronger than people think, the Supreme Kai was still confident in confronting Babidi despite him believing the Saiyans were weaker than Frieza or the likes of Pui Pui or Yakon, etc. He chases after Dabura and Babidi after watching them obliterate his attendant Kibito. This means he's prepared to fight Dabura, as he himself believes the other Saiyans are fodder. It might not be far-fetched to say he was planning on tag-teaming him with Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, as he thought Gohan was actually pretty powerful, especially for a mortal. However, it still says volumes about the Supreme Kai's confidence in his abilities. Speaking of that, when the Kai confronted Majin Buu, he actually lasted just as long as both a pissed-off Super Saiyan 2 Gohan and a pissed-off Majin Dabura. I'd even venture to say the Supreme Kai did better than both of them, despite both of them being on Cell's level, if not higher, as hinted by Goku when Gohan fought Dabura. So Piccolo being weaker than the Supreme Kai does not at all mean Piccolo is only Cell Jr. level, or somehow way weaker than Mastered Super Saiyan Goku from the Cell games. It's simply not in Piccolo's character to grow so slowly in strength. He trains just as hard as Goku and Vegeta do. For the third and final point people make against him, Dabura and Babidi claiming the base Saiyans were stronger than Piccolo. Now, if you believe base Gohan is stronger than Piccolo, you need a history lesson, but let's go over it. Now, this argument is absolutely redundant for many reasons at this point. Gohan was not angry here like he was versus Fat Buu, and was still rusty and weaker than he was as a kid in the Cell games, meaning Piccolo, who could take on androids just 7 years ago, would be stronger than base Gohan logically. Base Gohan is not stronger than Android Saga Super Saiyan Vegeta. I don't care what you think. I'd also like to bring up the fact that they were trying to hide on the cliffs and were suppressing their ki to sneak up on Babidi. So all this really says is that Piccolo is better at controlling his ki than the Saiyans are. To top this off, Babidi thought he could even take Piccolo and even called him an insect. However, Piccolo proved him wrong when he was capable of taking all of Babidi's tricks and magic and completely shit on him. Even when Babidi had his guard up and his barrier up. The same barrier that was able to take Majin Vegeta's final explosion at far distance. This is also interesting because Babidi was able to completely manipulate someone like Dabura. Yet, Piccolo wasn't even bothered by Babidi's tricks or abilities. I'd argue Piccolo is more than stronger than Dabura before his Majin Amp because of this. The Majin Amp is inconsistent, but it also brought Vegeta to Goku's level, so it can't be too massive. Probably no more than 2 times. Yet Majin Dabura was theorized to be stronger than Perfect Cell by Goku. So even then it's safe to say Piccolo is at least half of Perfect Cell's full power by the Buu Saga, at the absolute bare minimum. No Cell Jr. Super Vegeta level bullshit. To top this off, I'd also like to bring up the fact that Akira Toriyama actually originally planned for Majin Piccolo to fight Goku, and for that to happen, Piccolo would at least have to be decently powerful, and probably give at least Super Saiyan Goku a good fight, and if Majin Dabura can't take on Super Saiyan Goku, then Piccolo would logically be stronger than Dabura without the Majin boost. And even another point on Buu Saga Piccolo, it should be noticed that after Piccolo witnessed Dabura murder Kibito, he dashed at Dabura without fear and said, "You're mine," like he was gonna whoop his ass. This is important for many reasons, as Piccolo does not underestimate his opponents, as stated by Gohan when he took on second form Frieza. and he still never even bothered to take off his weights and dashed right at Majin Dabura. This honestly supports the theory I had earlier that Piccolo is much closer to Dabura's power than people think, as people thought Dabura was weak enough that he didn't even need to take off his weights. I'd say in the end, after taking on Babidi and provoking him directly, this being the same guy who mind-fucked a not a perfect cell level fighter, then he starts dashing at Dabura himself without hesitation at all, with his weights on, shows that Piccolo is more than likely Dabura level if not greater. Arguing he's simply by Goten and Trunks level is insane by this point. So now that we've covered the atrocious downplay of the Buu Saga Piccolo, let's get on to Dragon Ball Super. In Dragon Ball Super, he's not nearly as downplayed as he was in the Buu Saga, but I still think he's stronger than people give him credit for. The main point people underestimate him is during the Universe 6 tournament after Piccolo trains with Gohan. Many people say Piccolo only stood a chance against Frost because Frost was severely weakened from Super Saiyan Goku beating his ass. And while I do think Frost took damage, I do not believe he took that much damage, as we've seen Frieza take far more brutal beatings and damage and still retain a lot of his original power. Don't get me wrong, Frost was weakened, just not that much weaker. I think the best way to go about this is to bring up Piccolo's Special Beam Cannon. Piccolo's Special Beam Cannon was capable of piercing even Vados's barrier, Champa's attendant. Why is this impressive, might you ask? Well, it's very impressive because even Goku, when he fought Frost, couldn't break this barrier in his base form. Whether it be Ki Blast or even a full power Kamehameha, he couldn't budge the barrier at all. Yet Piccolo's Special Beam Cannon blasted right through it. Now, I'm not saying Piccolo could take out Goku with the Special Beam Cannon. Goku and Vegeta were clearly highly suppressed the entire tournament until they fought Hit. Vegeta himself didn't even show his full Super Saiyan power until he tanked a full power Kabe punch at the end of their fight. However, base Goku, even when suppressed, was still highly powerful. So powerful nobody even noted he was fucking around, as they couldn't even tell. Now, the thing with the Special Beam Cannon is that when you charge it for long periods of time, like Piccolo did against Raditz or Frost, it shoots up your power by a lot, in comparison to you if you just quickly fire it. But how much does it increase your power? Well, luckily, we actually have some numbers. We have to use power levels for this, but don't worry, they're all author approved and official levels from the manga or the Daizenshu. So when Piccolo charged his attack for 5 minutes against Raditz, his power went from 408 to 1330. That's a multiplier of 3.259 times. And while I'd argue Piccolo powered up his cannon against Raditz even more than he did against Frost, the point remains. Piccolo was no more than 2 to 3 times weaker than third form Frost after his intense training with Gohan. You could argue Piccolo had found a way to amp his Special Beam Cannon, kind of like how Tien found a way to massively amp his Tri-Beam, the Neo Tri-Beam, but I still think the point stands. Piccolo in Dragon Ball Super is far more powerful than people originally believed. I'd venture to say he'd absolutely obliterate Perfect Cell with little difficulty by this point, if not far more. Even Goku said Frost would destroy Piccolo, yet Piccolo seriously proved everyone wrong with his new training. And honestly, he's just far more powerful than people give him credit for. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed my Piccolo rant. Hope you learned something new. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time.